by Linda Padilla Gonzalez. What are organophosphates? Organophosphates are a class of organophosphorus compounds, and they are also known as OPS or OPPS, and these are widely used in pesticides, herbicides, and insecticides. Here is the chemical compound of organophosphates. Relevance. So why are organophosphates important to know about? So these organophosphate chemicals are used in pesticides, herbicides, and insecticides. And this is found in the home, so pest control is an example, as well as workplace exposure, and that is in agriculture. And it is used because it kills pests and can help kill insects and continue to grow healthy crops. It is beneficial, but it does have effects on the human health. Some examples of crops that are sprayed with organophosphorus chemicals include apples, pears, avocados, bananas, beans, potatoes, citrus plants, maize, tomatoes. These crops have been sprayed with organophosphorus compounds. The population at risk. So farmers are going to be who are more at risk because of their daily exposure, as well as workers who work with producing this chemical, such as packaging it, or actually creating it. The wives and partners of these workers, so of the agricultural workers or the farmers, are also at risk because of how they might handle their clothes, and it's going to be left over from the exposure on their clothes. Children are also at risk because they are more prone to not having the personal protective equipment, and usually also maybe touching the clothes and not washing their hands, especially if they're unaware, especially since the clothes might look clean. Homes that are near fields that spray with these chemicals are at risk, and areas that also are near any distributing facilities that handle this chemical are at risk because there is many ways you can become exposed, such as in the air. So being close is a risk. So a way that the organophosphorus poisoning can happen is through contact, so transdermal. So if you touch something that has the pesticide, if you eat something, or if you breathe it in, this can lead to an overexposure to organophosphates. It affects men by declining the sperm count. In some studies found that the motility is affected, as well as decrease in testosterone levels. Organophosphate poisoning affects the central nervous system in many ways. It can cause depression and thoughts of suicide. Some physical symptoms are vomiting, sweating, diarrhea, and confusion, and that's how it can be diagnosed in the hospital, as well as taking into consideration if they work in ag or on a farm. It can also affect women with their infertility, especially it can imbalance the sex hormones, which will also create irregular menstrual cycles. Women have also seen issues during pregnancy, including low birth weight, autism, ADHD, and learning disabilities. Women will also experience the physical symptoms such as nausea, vomiting, sweating, diarrhea, and confusion. And these are more symptoms of the organophosphate exposure. And acute symptoms are urination, defecation, lacrimation, and salivation. And some long-term symptoms are neurodegenerative diseases because it affects the central nervous system, and this includes short-term memory, and attention impairment, as well as um, respiratory depression and decreased motor activity, which will risk the health of the person who had been exposed, either a man or a woman. And then children can also have these symptoms, and which will be more more harder for them to overcome, which will lead to death if not um, um, if not addressed soon enough. The Environmental Protection Agency has banned some uses of organophosphates. So this chemical has many other types of chemicals that are used along with this. So some of them have been banned, but not all of them. So that is why you can still purchase it in stores. It's mixed with other chemicals, but the EPA is also working to create stricter regulations regarding the compounds that are used. So since other parts of the world are still using organophosphates that that the United States aren't using, it's important to continue research to find the links, to build strong links between the symptoms and the risks found in women's health and men's health, as well as how it affects women during their pregnancy, and how the children turn out after after being delivered. And this is important to lower the risk of all children exposed, in order to create a healthier population. And how to reduce exposure in general. So a way to use to reduce the exposure is to use personal protective equipment such as face masks, safety glasses, and proper gloves or shoes or clothing when using any sort of pesticide in the home or insecticide, or when you are working, to always use anything provided. Education on how the pesticide, insecticide can be transferred, so if it can stay on the clothes, and for how long, and how long do you need to wash your hands. All of this is important to know, and especially to just create more awareness from the unsafe exposure, to have those levels lowered and stay lowered, to still get the beneficial use of pesticides, but to also make sure it is to the standard of safety. And also, when you're shopping, it is important to look for environmental friendly products that will be safe for not only you but also for the environment. And this is just a way that you can reduce exposure and not worry about a dangerous level of organophosphate exposure. Thank you for listening to my presentation.